The art of engagement. It's easy to get excited when meeting someone we see as a potential partner and wanting to spill everything. So we end up oversharing, and then what happens? She ends up sitting there listening to you talking incessantly about yourself, all the while you believe you're simply lowering your guard and doing your best to engage. She's either bored, annoyed, or both. We've all done it, so don't feel bad if you identify with this scenario. Sometimes we catch it early enough to backtrack and do damage control by reverting the conversation back to her so we can show her that we're truly interested. Other times, we fail to recognize how we're dominating the conversation and the date ends with little chance of ever hearing from her again. It's like a job interview. Blow it and it's over. Learning to communicate takes work. It's not something we're all naturally gifted with. Sure, we know how to ask all the right questions and we certainly know how to talk about ourselves, but a deep conversation that leaves both people feeling satisfied isn't always as easy as we may think. The key is to listen just as much as we share. Yeah, I know. You've probably been told that you should simply do all the listening, but the truth is a great conversation is about both of you putting in an equal effort. It's a give and take exchange where each person is truly invested in getting to know one another. It's never one-sided. You want to share the spotlight so you can be sure she feels that you're genuinely interested in everything she has to say, rather than throwing out a round of rapid-fire questions only because you think you're expected to do so. Because nothing turns a woman off more than a disengaged man who is wrapped up in conversational narcissism. Leaving a positive impression where she thinks of you long after the date ends comes down to being authentic and charming. And believe me, any man can learn these skills. Here are a few tips that will help you master the art of conversation and leave her wanting more. Avoid boring, stock questions. Asking, "What do you do for fun?" isn't just uncreative, but it's flat out boring. Those kinds of questions won't leave her captivated or even remotely engaged. They lack thought and quite simply, they feel scripted. Sure, you can use these traditional questions as a starting point, but they need to be designed so they lead to more in-depth, engaging questions. The initial stock question should give you the chance to press further so that follow-up questions are more thought-provoking. Just remember, you never want to feel as though you're interrogating her. Share as much as she is. Match her pace and comfort level. And tailor the conversation to her rather than making the mistake of following a one-strategy-fits-all approach. Example, a standard question might be, "Where did you grow up?" And then a far more thought-provoking follow-up question could be, "Does that place still feel like home to you?" Or, "What was your favorite thing about living there?" Lead with a compliment. Don't listen to anyone who tells you that leading with a compliment is lame or cheesy. If it's a genuine compliment rooted in truth, it'll make her feel good about herself and simultaneously help her lower her guard and feel comfortable. Obviously, avoid anything sexual. You want to compliment her in a way that doesn't sexualize her in any way, especially if it's your first date. Sexy, flirty compliments will come later. For now, start by showing her you're paying attention by complimenting her in a way that not only disarms her but leaves her wanting more. Come armed and ready before your next date. Think about the type of questions you could ask her. Brainstorm stories you can share and think about the types of topics she is likely interested in. Even if you don't know much about her, there are tried and true topics that will pique nearly everyone's interest. Just avoid the obvious triggers: income, sex, politics, and religion. Go deep. We're all guilty of engaging in surface conversation. Small talk and discussions that barely graze the depths of anything deeply fulfilling. It's easy to ask her how she likes her job, right? There's one of those stock questions you want to avoid. Instead, ask her what her greatest challenges are in her career, or what she feels will change in her chosen profession. Dig deeper, but do so carefully. Don't pry if you get the impression that she's not comfortable talking in great depth about certain topics. At the same time, by engaging her in conversation that goes beyond the formalities of casual banter, you're demonstrating a real interest in getting to know who she really is and what makes her tick. Take your time. Well thought out responses and questions will go the distance, so slow things down and think before you speak. Most foot-in-mouth moments happen because we're too busy responding without being thoughtful. You can easily avoid this by pausing briefly so you can collect your thoughts and give her a genuine answer to her questions that you won't later regret. How to avoid the friend zone. Do nice guys really finish last? There's one place that no man wants to find themselves in, and that's the dreaded friend zone. What begins as a potential relationship where you are investing the time and energy into getting to know her, suddenly shifts into some strange, awkward and then way too comfortable space where she stops looking at you as a possible love interest and begins to see you as a good, trusted friend. If you've ever experienced this before, then you know how hard it can be to change gears and get back into the romantic partner category once she sees you as a buddy. So, obviously, you need to arm yourself with the tools needed to ensure you never get placed into the friend zone. Here's how to get started. Stop hanging out and start dating. The truth is, whether you end up in the friend zone or not isn't always within your control. However, there is one thing you can do to set the stage so that your chances of that happening are seriously minimized. It requires that you stop hanging out with the women you're interested in and you actually start dating them. Dating involves two people with potential love interest. You are in a temporarily committed relationship that involves getting to know each other to determine whether you're romantically compatible. But there's a fine line between dating and just hanging out, and you need to be very careful not to fall into the wrong category, otherwise you'll likely find yourself in the friend zone. And friend zone is nothing short of a lack of sexual interest. Dating equals pathway to finding romance. Hanging out equals pathway to becoming friends. This means every date must have a purpose. For example, you're not just taking her to a hockey game because you both share a mutual interest in watching the sport. Sure, the shared interest is great, but it should be the foundation of the date, the setting, not the purpose to find love. The purpose is spending time together as a potential couple. It's seeing how you both interact and engage with one another, how you feel spending a few hours in different settings and situations. It's about testing the waters of romance. So, during that date to the hockey game, consider the different ways you can set the tone so that she knows you are interested in her as more than friends. Be romantic, be sweet, and above all, be genuine and nurturing. Engage in conversation that goes beyond surface chatter. Read the previous chapter if you need help with that, and always stay focused on the real purpose of the date. Here are a few tips to keep yourself out of the friend zone. Be playful and flirty. Don't be afraid to flirt with her. This banter stage of dating is important because it clarifies your intentions and tells her that you are interested in her, well beyond just friends. Keep it light, joking and playful. Don't be subtle. Don't play hard to get or hold back when feeling the attraction. Men who find themselves in the friend zone are often there because they didn't make their interest known and instead were subtle flirters. If you're worried about coming off too strong, think about the alternative, that you make her feel you just aren't interested enough. If you need to turn it down, she'll let you know. Build sexual tension. As just mentioned, flirting is important because it shows interest in a sexual way, but you want to do your best to work on building sexual tension as well. You can do this through playful, lingering touching, such as placing her hand on her shoulder or her lower back when guiding her through the crowd. Women love the possessive touch of a man they're interested in because it makes them feel special and desired. Don't talk yourself down. Guys who end up in the friend zone are notorious for cutting themselves down to lighten conversations, or to simply come off as humble. The truth is, men who constantly self-deprecate aren't sexy. Sure, you might get a laugh or two and think that you're being endearing, but when it comes to relationships, you want her thinking of you sexually, not as a stand-up comedian who highlights all the reasons she shouldn't be attracted to you. Intense goodbyes. If the date ends on a high note, let her know that you're hesitant to end it even though you need to. Leave her wanting more and always end the date while the excitement and energy is at an all-time high.